And, I bet a lot of you listening out there
Mm-hmm.
are already dealing with diabetes.
Right.
So we're going to kind of look at how those two things are connected.
Yeah, how they play together.
Exactly.
Sure.
And then most importantly, what can you actually do about it?
Right, exactly. How can you take control?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
our source material actually calls this a fatty situation.
Uh-huh.
I thought that was kind of funny. But
It's a bed.
but on a serious note, what actually is hyperlipidemia?
Okay, so basically it just means that there's an imbalance of fats in your blood.
Okay.
And to understand that, we need to talk about cholesterol, right?
Okay.
I think everyone's heard of LDL cholesterol,
Uh-huh.
the bad cholesterol
Right.
that builds up in your arteries.
Yeah.
But there's also HDL cholesterol, which is the good guy. It actually helps to clear out the bad stuff.
Okay.
And then we have triglycerides, which are like stored energy
Okay.
from any extra calories that we consume.
Okay. So it's really all about,
Yeah.
the balance of these different.
Yeah, balance is key.
Yeah.
When you have too much of the wrong kind, that's when you start running into problems.
Right. And that's where things get especially interesting when you're already managing diabetes right.
Absolutely.
There's a real connection between diabetes and hyperlipidemia.
Yes, they often go hand in hand.
So it's not just a random pairing.
No, not at all.
Why is that?
Well, the reason has to do with something called insulin resistance.
Oh, okay.
And that's a very common feature of type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
Basically, what it means is that your cells aren't responding to insulin as well as they should be.
So it's not just blood sugar control then?
Right. So this impacts both your sugar processing and your fat processing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when you have insulin resistance, your liver starts making more LDL cholesterol. And it has a hard time getting rid of it from your blood.
And I know that...
And high blood sugar just makes everything worse.
Oh, really? How so?
Yeah, so high blood sugar damages your blood vessels,
Oh.
which makes them more vulnerable to that bad cholesterol sticking to the walls
Okay.
and forming plaque.
Oh, gosh.
And if that wasn't enough, it also lowers your good HDL cholesterol.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So it's like a double whammy.
It is, yeah. It makes it even harder to clear out the bad stuff.
That is a lot to process.
Is.
I know that weight management is a big concern for people with diabetes, too.
Mm-hmm.
And this source mentions how excess weight, especially belly fat,
Right?
worsens both insulin resistance and triglyceride levels.
Exactly.
So you're really in this vicious cycle.
Yeah, and when you combine that with high blood pressure,
Oh,
you're looking at something called metabolic syndrome,
okay.
which is this cluster of conditions that dramatically increases the risk of heart disease and stroke.
So we're not just talking about numbers on a lab report here.
No.
This is about serious long-term health risks.
Exactly, especially if you're already managing diabetes.
Okay, so let's break some of these down a little bit.
Sure.
What exactly is atherosclerosis?
So think of your arteries like pipes that carry blood throughout your body. Atherosclerosis is like gunk that builds up inside those pipes.
Ooh.
Eventually, it clogs them and restricts the blood flow.
So that's where things like coronary artery disease come in.
Yeah, so that's basically atherosclerosis that affects the arteries of your heart.
Okay.
And that's what can lead to things like chest pain or angina and even heart attacks.
And this source uses kind of a powerful image to describe stroke.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a plaque breaking loose and traveling to your brain.
Yeah, basically cutting off the blood flow.
And again, the combination of diabetes and hyperlipidemia,
Right.
that makes this risk even greater.
Much greater.
It's kind of scary how all these things are so interconnected.
They are. And we also have to remember that high cholesterol and triglycerides can affect other parts of your body too,
Oh, really? Like what?
like your legs and your feet.
Okay.
So we have something called peripheral artery disease, or PAD, and that affects the arteries in your legs and feet.
And they can be especially problematic for those with diabetic neuropathy.
Yeah, because they already have problems with their circulation.
Right.
So then if you add PAD on top of that, you can experience pain, numbness, and even develop ulcers and infections.
And we talked about triglycerides earlier.
Yes.
What happens when those levels get really high?
So very high triglycerides can actually cause a sudden and severe inflammation of your pancreas.
Oh, wow.
It's called pancreatitis, and it can be really serious. It's a medical emergency.
It's alarming how these seemingly silent conditions can lead to such serious complications.
You're telling me, and that's why regular blood tests are so important.
Right? Because you might not even know.
Exactly. You might not have any symptoms.
So are there any signs at all that we should be looking out for?
So while it's not common, there are a couple of physical signs that can sometimes appear.
Okay, well, it's like...
So you might see fatty deposits under your skin. They're called xanthomas. Or you might notice a grayish ring around the cornea of your eye,
Okay.
which is called arcus cornea, but these are more extreme situations.
So really the blood tests are the best way to catch it early.
Yes, absolutely crucial.
But, I'm sure our listeners are wondering, what can they do about this?
Right.
Like, can you even manage hyperlipidemia when you're already juggling diabetes?
Absolutely. It's definitely possible.
Okay.
We need to shift from understanding the problem to taking charge.
Okay. I like that.
And the good news is there are many things you can do, starting with your diet.
Diet always seems to be at the forefront, right?
It really is, and it can help with both hyperlipidemia and diabetes.
That's a win-win.
It is. So let's talk about saturated fat first.
Okay.
So those are the fats that are found in things like fatty cuts of meat, butter, full-fat dairy products,
Got it.
and they can raise your bad cholesterol, so it's best to limit them.
So what should we be eating instead?
You want to opt for lean protein sources like chicken, fish, beans, and lentils.
Okay. Less bad fats. What else?
Fiber. You want to up your fiber intake,
Okay.
especially soluble fiber, which is found in foods like oats, beans, lentils, and fruits.
Okay.
It actually binds to cholesterol in your digestive system,
Yeah.
prevents it from being absorbed into your bloodstream.
So it's like blocking it.
Exactly.
I like that.
So that can help lower your LDL levels.
So less bad fats, more fiber. Got it.
Got it.
Now, what about the good fats that we always hear about?
Yes, so those are things like olive oil, avocados, nuts, and seeds.
Okay.
And those can actually help to raise your HDL cholesterol.
Oh, wow. So it's not about eliminating all fat.
No, it's about choosing the right kinds.
Exactly. And what about carbs and sugar?
Yes, they play a role too.
How?
So things like white bread, pastries, sugary drinks,
Uh-huh.
all of that can cause spikes in both your blood sugar and your triglyceride levels.
Oh, wow.
So you want to focus on whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and foods with a low glycemic index.
Okay. And what is that exactly?
So the glycemic index, or GI, measures how quickly a food raises your blood sugar.
Okay.
So foods with a low GI are digested more slowly,
Catch.
and that leads to a gentler rise in blood sugar.
Which is good for both of these.
Absolutely. It helps prevent those big spikes in your blood sugar and triglycerides.
That's helpful. And I'm guessing that exercise is just as important.
You know it. Physical activity is fantastic for both.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
It improves insulin sensitivity,
Okay.
it lowers your bad cholesterol, and raises your good cholesterol.
Just want to aim for...
At least 30 minutes most days of the week of
Okay.
moderate intensity exercise, but it doesn't have to be anything crazy.
Right.
Walking, swimming, dancing, or even gardening can all make a difference.
That's good to hear because I'm not a marathon runner or anything.
Right.
But what if someone is doing all the right things
Right.
with diet and exercise and their numbers still aren't where they should be?
Yeah, that happens sometimes, and that's where medication might become necessary.
Okay.
There are a number of different types of medications that can help lower cholesterol and triglycerides.
So what are some of the options?
Well, one of the most common types is statins.
Okay.
And statins work by blocking the production of cholesterol in your liver.
So they stop your body from making so much.
Exactly.
That tells us there.
There's also something called fibrates.
Oh,
Those primarily target triglycerides,
gotcha.
but they can also boost HDL cholesterol.
Are there any other options?
There's niacin, although it's not prescribed as often
Okay.
because of the potential side effects.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it can impact all three types of fat.
Oh, wow.
And then we have a newer class of drugs called PCSK9 inhibitors.
PCSK9 inhibitors. What are those?
So these are a really great option for people who haven't had success with statins.
Yeah.
They target a specific protein that helps regulate how cholesterol is removed from your bloodstream.
So it's like helping your body get rid of it.
Exactly. And they can really drastically lower those LDL cholesterol levels.
Wow. So it sounds like there are a lot of different options if lifestyle changes aren't enough.
There are.
And what about weight management?
So even losing a small amount of weight, like 5–10% of your body weight,
Okay.
can significantly improve both your blood sugar control and your lipid levels.
That's good to know.
And you don't have to do it all at once.
Right.
Aim for 1 to 2 pounds per week
Okay.
through a combination of diet and exercise.
Small changes over time.
Exactly.
Now, we can't forget about smoking.
Of course not.
We all know it's bad for you. But is there a specific connection to hyperlipidemia?
There is, yeah. In addition to all the other bad stuff.
Right.
Smoking actually lowers your good cholesterol.
Oh, wow.
So it makes it even harder to clear out that bad LDL.
Okay, so if you smoke, quitting is one of the best things you can do.
For sure.
And it seems like everything we've talked about kind of ties back to managing blood sugar, too.
Yeah, it does. So keeping your blood sugar in check is really critical.
How so?
Well, when your blood sugar is elevated, it contributes to the production of both LDL cholesterol and triglycerides.
Oh, wow.
So keeping your blood sugar within your target range can really help prevent those lipids from getting out of control.
So it's really all about managing both of these conditions hand in hand.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
I like it.
You're not alone in this juggling act.
Yeah. I mean, it can be challenging, right?
It can.
To manage both of these.
It can, but it is possible.
And this deep dive has given us a lot to think about
It has.
and some great tools to get started.
Yes.
And, I want to emphasize that
Yeah.
while both diabetes and hyperlipidemia are chronic conditions,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to define your life.
They don't.
By understanding the connection and taking proactive steps, you can protect your heart,
Absolutely.
improve your overall well-being,
Mm-hmm.
and live a long and healthy life.
You got it.
We'll be back with part 2 shortly, so stay tuned.
Yeah.
We're back for part 2 of our deep dive, you guys.
Back at it.
Still talking about hyperlipidemia,
That's right.
especially for those of you who, like me, are also managing diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
We covered a lot of ground
We did.
in the first part,
Yeah.
but we've got more to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Plenty more.
I mean, it's amazing how these conversations
Right.
always seem to spiral outwards,
Yeah. Connect to bigger ideas.
We started with hyperlipidemia, but really we're talking about taking control of your health destiny.
Yeah. You got it.
That's true.
You're not a passenger in your own body.
Right.
You can make choices that impact your health.
Exactly. And it's not about being perfect.
No.
Life happens. You can eat that birthday cake or,
Mhm.
Enjoy a meal out with your family.
Absolutely.
It's all about balance,
Yes.
not deprivation.
Right.
And this source really focuses on managing existing hyperlipidemia.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of curious about preventing it
Yeah.
in the first place.
That's a good question.
Like, is there anything you can do to lower your risk
Yeah, there are definitely things you can do.
before those numbers even start to creep up?
And the exciting thing is that a lot of the strategies we've talked about
Right.
can also help to prevent it in the first place.
So it's about building those healthy habits early on.
Exactly.
But where do you even begin? It can feel so overwhelming.
It can, yeah. It's about building a healthy lifestyle overall.
Okay, so that means.
A balanced diet with lots of fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, and whole grains.
Okay,
And limiting those processed foods, sugary drinks, and unhealthy fats.
got it. What else?
Regular exercise is key.
Okay, how much are we talking?
At least 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity per week.
That seems doable.
It is.
Oh,
Don't underestimate stress management and sleep.
right.
Chronic stress can really mess with your hormones
Uh-huh.
and impact your lipid metabolism.
And sleep,
Lack of sleep can disrupt a lot of your body's natural processes,
including cholesterol production.
including that, yes.
It's amazing how it's all connected.
It really is.
And of course, not smoking.
Of course, that goes without saying.
Yeah, we already talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
But any practical tips to make all of this a little less daunting?
Start small.
Yeah.
Don't try to change everything overnight.
Right.
Maybe swap out one sugary drink a day for water,
Okay.
or add a 15-minute walk to your routine a couple of times a week.
Celebrate those small victories.
Absolutely, because they add up over time.
But what about those people who are doing all the right things?
Yeah.
Eating healthy, exercising regularly, managing their stress,
Mm.
and they're still struggling with high cholesterol
Yeah, that definitely happens.
or high triglycerides.
Sometimes there's an underlying medical condition
Right.
or a medication that could be contributing.
So that's where working with your doctor is so important.
Absolutely, they can help you figure out what's going on
All right.
and create a personalized plan.
And don't be afraid to advocate for yourself.
Yes, ask questions, express your concerns. You know your body better than anyone else.
Yep.
So if something doesn't feel right, say something.
This deep dive has been so insightful.
It has.
We've learned a lot about hyperlipidemia,
Mm,
especially for those of us with diabetes.
absolutely.
But I think before we move on to the final part,
Yeah,
I want to acknowledge the emotional side of things.
for sure.
It can be tough to make all these changes,
You can.
especially when you're already dealing with diabetes.
That's a lot to manage.
It is, so it's normal to feel overwhelmed
Yeah.
or frustrated or even a little scared.
Absolutely.
We should give ourselves grace.
Yes, be kind to yourself.
Some days are going to be easier than others,
That's right.
and that's okay.
It is.
Progress, not perfection.
Exactly.
You don't have to go through this alone.
No, not at all.
What kind of resources are out there?
Well, there's some great organizations.
Okay.
like the American Heart Association and the American Diabetes Association,
Huh.
they have tons of information on their websites
Right.
and even online communities.
I know a lot of people find support in those online groups.
They're great for sharing experiences.
Yeah, and getting advice from people who understand.
Exactly.
And don't forget about your loved ones.
Oh, yeah, they can be a huge support.
Just having someone to listen.
Makes a big difference.
It does.
Sometimes you just need someone to validate your feelings.
So it's a combination of seeking professional help,
Mm-hmm.
connecting with others who understand,
Yeah.
and taking care of yourself emotionally.
It's all connected.
And remember, this is a journey, not a destination.
That's so important to remember.
There are going to be ups and downs.
There will be.
But if you stay informed,
Yeah.
stay connected,
Yeah.
and stay positive,
Yeah.
you can do this.
Absolutely.
And you can live a long and healthy life.
You got it.
I love that message.
And when you take care of your heart health,
Yeah,
you're not just benefiting yourself.
right.
You're setting a positive example for your loved ones, too.
It's like a ripple effect.
It is.
I love that.
It can impact generations to come.
So we're creating a legacy of health and well-being.
That's a great way to put it.
We'll be back shortly with the final part of our deep dive.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Stay with us. All right, we're back
Part 3.
for the final part of our deep dive.
Here we go.
I can't believe how much we've talked about already.
A lot to cover.
So much to say about this topic.
It's a big one.
We've talked about the risks, the science,
Mm-hmm.
how to manage it, the emotional side of things.
Yeah, it's not just about the numbers.
But I think what's really stuck with me
Yeah.
is this idea that we have more control than we think.
I think that's what's so fascinating about this topic.
Right.
It's easy to just feel like this is your fate, right?
Oh, well, I have this diagnosis now.
Right.
That's just how it is.
But that's not true.
But it's not true.
We have a lot of influence
We do.
over our health outcomes.
And it's not about being perfect either.
It's about progress, not perfection.
Yeah, just making those small changes day after day.
Absolutely. Consistency is key.
And I love how this source talks about working with your doctor
Right.
to create a personalized plan.
It's a collaborative approach.
You're not alone in this.
No, you've got a whole team.
So they can help you figure out the right targets for your cholesterol,
Mm-hmm.
your blood sugar levels, monitor your progress,
Keep you on track.
make adjustments as needed,
Exactly. And help you understand all the treatment options.
because it can be confusing.
Oh, yeah. Especially with medications.
So many different things out there.
There are.
But it's also about being your own advocate.
Absolutely.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Speak up if you're not comfortable with something.
Yeah, or if something doesn't feel right.
Trust your instincts.
You know your body best.
You do.
So we've covered a lot about hyperlipidemia,
We have.
especially for those with diabetes.
Yeah, a lot of information.
So before we wrap things up,
Okay.
I want to leave our listeners with a final thought. Imagine a world where everyone understands the importance of heart health and takes proactive steps to protect it.
Wow. What would that world look like?
It's pretty amazing to think about, right?
It is. I envision a world where heart disease isn't the leading cause of death anymore.
Right.
Where people are making healthy choices because they want to thrive.
Exactly, not because they're afraid.
Right. It's a totally different mindset.
And it all starts with us,
It does.
taking those small steps every single day
One day at a time.
to create a healthier future.
For ourselves and for future generations.
I love that. It's been such a pleasure talking to you about this.
Likewise, I've really enjoyed it.
And I hope everyone listening feels empowered.
Yes. Take charge of your health journey.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into hyperlipidemia and diabetes.
Until next time.
Stay curious, stay informed, and stay healthy.